So this question, we are given two blocks which is in contact with each other on a frictionless horizontal surface. So the keyword frictionless will telling you that there will be no friction acting on the two objects. Okay, a horizontal force F, a horizontal force of 200 newtons is applied to M1, and given that M1 is 10 kg, this one is 10 kg, and M2 is 30 kg. So I want to determine the acceleration of the system. So since I'm going to determine acceleration, so I'm understood that I'm going to apply Newton's second law, summation force equal to ma. Then second question, I'm going to determine the magnitude of the contact forces between block M1 and M2. So you can see very obviously M1 is in contact with M2. So I'm going to calculate what is the force in between M1 and M2. Okay, so how I'm going to solve this question? So since we are going to follow the problem solving strategy for Newton's law of motion, we will start with FPD. So I draw the FPD. So draw FPD separately for M1 and M2 because we have two objects. So I draw the FPD for M1 first. So for M1, we can represent by a dot. So for M1, it experienced a push force acting on it to the right. So I have F push of 200 Newton, and then M1 is put on the surface. So M1 have mass, so we are going to have weight downward and contact with the surface. So we are going to have normal force upward. So we have weight downwards, W1, and then the normal force perpendicularly from the surface acting upward, N1. Okay. So take note class, M1 is in contact with M2. So according to Newton's third law, every action force, there must be a reaction force which is equal in magnitude but opposite in directions. So class, menurut Newton's third law, M1 akan menekan ke atas M2. So kita denote sebagai 1, 2. Okay, pada waktu yang sama, so M2 akan rasa reaction force ni. So M2 akan menolak balik M1. So M2 akan menolak balik M1. We have F21. So untuk M1 dia akan rasa reaction force from object 2. So kita lukis ke belakang. So we have F21. Okay. Then we're done with the FPD M1. Then we have FPD for M2. So class, same go for M2. M2 ada mass, so dia akan ada weight ke bawah. W2. M2 is put on the surface, so dia ada normal force ke atas. M2. And at the same time, M2 akan rasa action force daripada M1 menolak dia ke depan. So kita ada F12. So kita ada F12. Okay, F12 means the F12 here means the force from object 1 on object 2. Okay, yang mana ini kita panggil sebagai action force. Okay. Dan F21 ni adalah reaction force. Di mana bila M2 rasa M1 tolak dia ke depan, so M2 akan react balik ikut Newton's third law, so dia akan menolak M1 ke belakang. Okay. So class, we have done with the FPD, and then we can see obviously F200 Newton and F21, F12 is on our x-axis. And M1 W1 and 2 W2 is along the y-axis. So all the forces is already lie on the axis. So we no need to do any resolving forces. So we proceed to the equations of Newton's law. So class, because of the push force, we can predict that both of M1 and M2 are going to accelerate to the right. Okay, so I predict that the acceleration is towards right for both objects. So now I write down the equation. So a summation of force along the x-axis equal to MA. Refer to the force along the x-axis for M1. You can see obviously 200 newtons is in the direction of acceleration towards right, but F21, the reaction force from M2, is opposite to the accelerations. So I'm going to have 200 minus F21 equal to mass M1 is 10 kg, so 10A. So I'll put this one as equation 1, cannot solve because we have two unknown. Then I move on to the second FPD for M2. Again, I'm going to apply Newton's second law for the x-axis. So summation of force along x-axis equal to MA. So now if you refer to the FPD for M2, you can see obviously the only force that acting along the x-axis will be F12, the action force. So F12 will equal to the mass of second object is 30A. So I'm going to have this equation. Okay, second equation. Then class, recall the concept we learned in Newton's third law. Every action force and reaction force, they are equal in magnitude, only they are opposite in direction. So it means that the action force F12 and reaction force F21, the value is the same. Okay, so I can put equation 2 into equation 1. So I put 2 into 1. So I'm going to have 200 minus 30A equal to 10A. Then I solve it using calculator. I'll get the acceleration will be 5 meter per second squared. Okay. Then for the second question B, I want to determine the magnitude of contact force between block M1 and M2. So this one actually is referred to F12. So refer to equation 2. So F12 will be 30A. So the acceleration is 5. Then I'll get the contact force between the two blocks will be 150 Newton.